Our fandom, the furry fandom, started in grassroots basement publishing of fanzines, distributed mostly to friends and mailing lists made at sci-fi cons. It would lay some groundwork for furries to talk to each other well before the internet was common in everyone's homes. And is it pronounced zine or zine? Eventually, our own furry convention started to sprout up the world over, thanks especially to the internet. Zines in general fell out of favor, though of course you can usually find a couple in artist alleys at conventions for comics, coloring books, and interesting collaborations. I have a couple here. Today we're going to talk about a different fandom, one that burned bright but lasted only a short time. Before we had bronies, there were the Gargoyles. This week on Culturally F, we're discussing the Disney cartoon that introduced a generation of internet users to fan communities. 20 years ago, broadcast TV and the net ruled. It was a time of discovery. It was a world interconnected. It was the age of Gargoyles. Stone by day, warriors by night is Culturally F'd. Before we get into the fandoms, we need to gush about Gargoyles and why it deserved its intense fan community. Gargoyles was an animated series that ran between 1994 and 1997 on Disney, created by Greg Weisman. It follows these mythical beasts for which the show is named, as they were cursed into a stone sleep for 1,000 years. Luckily for them, an enterprising billionaire bought the statues and broke the curse by erecting the castle above the clouds on his Manhattan skyscraper. The Gargoyles' natural instinct is to protect, so with the help of some human friends who help keep their secret, they patrol the streets of New York for petty crime, robots, cyborgs, mutants, and Shakespearean fairy gods. So like a regular day in New York, I guess. The show is sometimes called Star Trek with Wings because the voice cast included so many Star Trek alumni. Most notably, Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis starred as the series' primary antagonists, David Xanatos and Demona, respectively. The main gargoyle, Goliath, is voiced by Keith David, who you might know better as Sarge from Halo or the Fire King from Adventure Time.
Keith David obviously would eventually totally bring Goliath to life with his amazing voice.
They were at first going to put some sound enhancement or, put some reverb and stuff on it, but they didn't have to.
The character description for casting Hudson, the Elder Gargoyle, read as hates spunk, referring to Ed Asner's character from The Mary Tyler Moore Show. When Ed Asner himself showed up to read for the part, the show creators were ecstatic. The show's main human character, Elisa Maza, is voiced by Sally Richardson Whitfield. Other Trekkie guests and regulars on the show included Brett Spiner, Kate Mulgrew, Michelle Nichols, Cole Meany, and LeVar Burton. Regular guest stars who also included Tom Wilson, John Rhys-Davies, Matt Frewer, Jim Belushi, and Tim Curry. Disney was aiming to create a property to compete directly with Batman the Animated Series. Originally, it was pitched as a comedy like an Urban Gummy Bears, a project that Weisman had worked on prior. Reworked to be darker and centering around a new character, Goliath, it was reimagined as Gummy Bears blended with 21 Jump Street. Plans were made to grow Gargoyles into a vast franchise that would be Disney's equivalent to the expansive Marvel Universe. Turns out, it's just easier to buy Marvel. The show stood out from its competition because a lot of what Disney was producing at the time was slapstick comedy or sitcoms. Gargoyles' darker tone made it feel more like a noir and a drama, as much as it was about punching robots and shooting lasers at trickster spirits. Animated in a similar fashion to Batman, studios used black paper instead of white to create a darker tone. The show constantly switched between animation studios, resulting in inconsistent quality. Sometimes the episodes were fluid and over-animated like Disney's other shows, and other times it was really cheaply done and animated closer to an anime, since their animation studios were spread all around Asia. The show was years ahead of its time in terms of diversity and representation. Elisa Maza was already unusual for a boys' action show, being a female police officer, while also being of African and Aboriginal descent. Both ethnic backgrounds became important plot points in Season 2. Her partner was Matt Bluestone, who was Jewish, and her boss was Lieutenant Chavez, a Latino woman. The police and citizens of New York City are depicted as just as diverse as they are in real life. Had the show remained on the air, Lexington would have gotten a close male friend to hint at the character's sexual orientation that may have stirred controversy. Out of the way, Steven Universe! When the show's story was extended into the series of comics, Lexington's love interest was going to be the British gargoyle Stagheart, and yes, before you ask, there's lots of fan art of this. Greg Weisman had a solid concept of the gargoyle's species, specific reproductive cycles, organic reasons for their abilities like turning to stone, healing, and flight, much of which was implied in the show or shared with fans online and at the Gargoyles conventions we're about to talk about. The show was also diverse in its use of fantasy, mythology, and science fiction to build interesting side characters. The furriest group was the Mutates, with a distinct cat-like appearance and looking like a DeviantArt Sparkle Dog cosplaying as a no-name member of the Justice League. Xanatos also tried to clone the Gargoyles, creating a super hybrid of himself and Goliath. Are you a big fan of cyborgs? Because the show has you covered there, with some of Goliath's clan resurrected and Frankensteined in a pseudo-magical mechanical form, and members of the mercenary team The Pack were given Terminator-esque upgrades. Weisman made sure to have a solid world built for his characters to exist in, to make it feel more real, with clear rules on how things like magic or cybernetics worked. When a human character was injured, they took time to heal, sometimes many episodes. To build on the idea of an expanded canon like Marvel Comics, the show's creators already thought of at least 4 potential spin-offs. These would create a basis for a lot of fan works. The character Brooklyn would have gotten his own spin-off called Time Dancer, where a rogue time talisman called the Phoenix Gate swallows the gargoyle up in a Doctor Who-style time travel adventure. Also proposed was Pendragon, which would follow the awakened King Arthur and a handful of the British gargoyles revealed in Season 2. There was also going to be Bad Guys, which managed a brief pilot comic series, which I have an issue with. I mean, an issue of, right here next to me. Bad Guys followed several of the disgraced villains from the show, who become a sort of Suicide Squad of anti-heroes. The final spin-off would have been Gargoyles, set in the distant future, and explore more of the themes from my personal favorite episode, Future Tense, where a Xanatos AI runs a dystopian, corporate, authoritarian hellscape. Many of the fans felt that Disney did not understand its creation, clearly struggling to market the show correctly, and in retrospect, they only seemed interested in selling poorly conceived action figures. Some of the early concept work didn't have the He-Man loincloths the characters are usually wearing, just multicolored Ken dolls, and you can see some of the remnants of this in the design of the Mutates. In an early episode, Greg Weisman was instructed by Disney's producers to write in a cool helicopter, despite the character's innate ability to glide and lack of pilot experience, having woken up from medieval Scotland. The producers just wanted to push a helicopter accessory in their Gargoyles toy line. We discussed cartoon toyetic strategies in an earlier episode of Culturally Effed. Click the little eye at the corner of the screen. We'll link you to it. The show lasted 2 seasons before being canceled by Disney. ABC bought the rights and produced a 3rd season called The Goliath Chronicles with an all-new writing staff. This new season was so bad and so poorly written, with a complete misunderstanding of the characters in the canon, that the 3rd season isn't considered official canon by fans or the original creators. The recent comic series also ignores that season and picks up right at the end of Season 2. Greg Weisman would go on to write and produce a number of cartoons, including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Star Wars Rebels, The Flash, Justice League, Young Justice, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Ben 10, Kim Possible, and a whole bunch more. His IMDb page is huge. A big Comic-Con is about media consuming. You go to shop, maybe meet an actor or a creator you admire, cosplay, and take pictures of other cosplayers. The gatherings were more about sharing skills, fan art, and stories. The smaller con meant that you didn't just get to meet the actors or writers, you got to engage with them and hang out with them a little. Unlike the broad category of furry or even comics or anime, the gathering placed everyone in the same universe, the same canon, based on a show that only lasted 2 seasons. I'll reiterate that officially, everyone hates the 3rd season. So those are all great reasons to get excited and geek out over a cartoon from the 90s. Many at the time did just that. Gargoyles was online early. Remember, this was the 90s when the internet was not on everyone's phones. Connecting to the internet was expensive and had agonizingly slow speeds. So getting online, even just to look at fan art or fan fiction, was no small undertaking. Back in my day, we were lucky to have a T1 line at 1.54 megabits per second for all 3 of the school's computers to work from to get onto AOL for 10 minutes. Eventually, through ICQ and some dated HTML websites, some of which are still online today, helped the community organize and get their conventions off the ground and marketed to just the right fans from all over the US and Canada. Greg Wiseman was also really engaged with his new community, and it's a nice early example of creators interacting directly with their fan base online before tools like Twitter or Facebook existed. The Gathering of the Gargoyles was the official fan convention, and it ran for 13 years, attracting a couple hundred of attendees every year. The Gargoyles' official canon would continue in comic book form in 2008 and 2009, with contributing artists from the fan community to continue the story. Corinne Charlebois, do you recognize her? That's the furry artist Canthera, who you may have met at a furry convention. From humble beginnings as a fan artist, she managed to turn her geekery into a full career, getting to work directly with Greg Wiseman and Disney. She's also worked on My Little Pony and takes commissions. But sadly, that's all we have from the creators of the show. As far as we know, the canon is over, and the series is officially done with no new word on any new projects for the Gargoyles universe. Gargoyles continues only in the hearts and minds of its fans, and is returned to the obscure corners of the internet for the community to continue to share their art and stories. We're going to end the way we began, with a zine. A group of artists came together to publish a love letter to these early communities. In I Was a Teenage Gargoyle, they outline how this small community and other nerdy underground properties like Sailor Moon changed their lives for the better, pushed their careers forward, and built lasting relationships. Even 20 years after the show was broadcast on TV. This zine is full of anecdotes of kids and teens who were into the show but didn't know anyone at their school or in their life who cared about it like they did. It's about how the show inspired them to get into Shakespeare and history and writing and art. It's a nostalgic look back to a time when, with nowhere else to go, these kids could find solace and companionship on online message boards. You can find a link to I Was a Teenage Gargoyle in the description, and you can download it as a PDF for Pay What You Can, which was how I was able to access it. I think it's important to talk about and address this because it mirrors our own fandom very closely, though Furry is quite a bit older and now quite a bit bigger. Likewise, I think it's a great case study to find out what might happen to fans of, say, My Little Pony, which is also bigger, but has had their show last much longer. Perhaps one day, like the Gargoyles, bronies will have their favorite media canceled or bought out by a company who just doesn't get it, and the thing that they celebrate and love will change in a way to disenfranchise them. It's in my personal opinion that Furry will absorb that fandom in its sunset years, since that's kind of what happened to many of the Gargoyles fans from the gatherings. I want to hear from you guys in the comments if you were part of a smaller or more focused fandom before discovering Furry. What was it, and how did it take you to the bigger, grander scheme of the Furry fandom? My older brother was a big part of the community, and it definitely influenced me growing up. I remember having bootlegged VHS tapes of the entire series that he got from one of the gatherings. Gargoyles instilled in me, and many others, an interest in literature, mythology, science fiction, and Gargoyles hits all of these nerdy buttons on my brain. It's an intelligent sci-fi fantasy blend fit for any furry of any age. Special thanks to Corinne, Sarah, and of course my big brother John for helping me with this episode. They were all a part of the Gargoyles fandom from early on, and they helped me get a better sense of what those cons of about 200 to 300 people were like. I have been your host Arrkay. Thanks for watching.
Hey guys, it's Bob Rust, here with another beautiful landscape I call landscape number B. I'm using shades of white and red, but you at home, you can use any colors you like when you make your effed up art. You can use colors like red and white. Now, if you like Culturally Effed, make sure to share it and tag that special someone who you think might really appreciate our videos. If you want to support us, we got some t-shirts for sale. You can also visit our Patreon page. Some happy little brushstrokes on our landscape here. Really try and cheer this landscape up. It's looking a little grumpy. Just happy little brushstrokes.